الحمد لله نحمده ونستعينه ونستغفره ونؤمن به ونتوكل عليه ونعوذ بالله من شرور أنفسنا ومن سيئات أعمالنا من يهده الله فلا مضل له ومن يضلله فلا هادي له ونشهد أن لا إله إلا الله وحده لا شريك له ونشهد أن محمدا عبده ورسوله أما بعد فإن خير الحديث كتاب الله وخير الهدي هدي محمد صلى الله عليه وسلم وشر الأمور محدثاتها وكل محدثة بدعة وكل بدعة ضلالة وكل ضلالة في النار. Alright, thank you everyone for joining us. We had a lot of registrations, so we're going to wait for some more people to come in. I want for you to be very present with respect to your keyboards. I want you to be actively typing in the chat as we speak, okay? So I'll be reading your chat, I'll be asking you questions, I'll be expecting responses. Thank you all for joining once again. Just give us a couple of minutes until a few more people join in, and then we're gonna officially begin. I just want you to start chatting, start typing in the chat, so we know that we're all connected. Okay? Thank you. Wa alaikum assalam. We'll be back in a couple of minutes. Right, we're back. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuhu once again. We're going to have to work with a little bit of an adjustment here since we're used to doing this on Zoom, and just for today's session we moved to YouTube. There's going to be a little bit of a lag between my speaking and you hearing me and then you having to respond. Okay, so it's just for today. We'll work with what we have. We're gonna move to Zoom for all of our subsequent sessions. It's only for today that we're using YouTube, and so the interaction is going to be a little bit of a problem. So one thing that I'm going to ask for all of you who are tuned in live to do is to drag your cursor, the seek cursor, all the way to the end, so there's minimal lag with respect to what you hear from me, okay? And those of you who will be listening to the recording, one very important aspect of the presentation today and every presentation that I'm going to give in this Quran and Psychology course, it is that it's going to be interactive, okay? So I'll be asking a question, I'll be expecting responses. You'll be giving me responses, then I'll be moving on, which may be a little bit of a problem today since we're doing this on YouTube and there is this lag issue, but let's work with me here. We're going to try to do the best that we can, and inshallah all subsequent sessions are going to happen over Zoom. Right, so first up, let's a little bit of an outline over what we're doing today, and there's 4 basic areas that I'm going to be covering. Why am I doing this, which is the most important question, and then who I am, for those of you who don't know, and yet you're still here, which is pretty surprising, but very humbling. So, but still, it's important for me to put that out there. And then I'm going to talk about what this is not, right? So certain ideas that people get when they hear Quran and Psychology, I want to make sure that we address that those expectations are not placed with this particular course, right? And then we're going to talk about what this is, particularly the the technical details with respect to this course. Fair enough? Everyone's with me so far? Looks like it. Thank you, all of you, for your contribution in the chat. It's just that when you chat and when I see it, there's again a lag, which is very frustrating, but I'll get over it. I hope you'll be okay with it as well, and we'll work something out. Okay, first up, why am I doing this? First question I'm putting out there in front of you. Those of you who are going to be listening to the recordings, I want you to answer these questions to yourself. Type them out, write them out, whatever it is. For those of you who are watching live, I'm going to wait for your responses despite the lag before we move on. Okay? So the very first question I want you to answer is, how do your relationships influence you? Okay? Questions in front of you. I want you to answer. Type it out so I can see your responses, and we're going to build on those responses. All right? So go ahead. Okay, in so many ways, build on that. They shape us, very good. They add pressure. Marriage influences us significantly, very good. Okay, keep going, everyone, keep. Pretty much in every way, our relationships have an influence on us. Building on this, when the person you're relating with, when he has an awesome character, how will that person influence your relationship? In brackets, I've put Harry. So for some reason or the other, I'm using Harry Potter as I'm going to be coming up with characters to make this a little bit interesting, and I'm just using characters from Harry Potter. So it's an awesome character. Let's say it's a Harry Potter kind of a character. Real good person, brave guy, the whole shebang, sacrificing, noble, and all of that. If that person is awesome, how will they influence your character? I'm waiting for your answers. You will reciprocate Harry's actions. Okay. They will take us up in our life. Very good. So they'll guide us. They'll inspire us. Very good. So when you're relating with somebody awesome, you become awesome. Right? You are inspired by their awesomeness and you look to become as much as possible like them. Good. Moving right along. What if the person you're relating with is of a horrible character? Think Draco Malfoy. Okay? Apparently there was something towards the end in which there was a turnaround, but still, the first 6 books, Draco Malfoy. How about that? Like a horrible character, you're in the company of a horrible character, how will that influence you? You'll become like a snake. You'll become like Slytherin. Okay? So, you'll become bitter and negative. Very good. So, moving right along, if the experience that you have with the horrible character, with that horrible person, and it doesn't even have to be a person, it can be an experience altogether. Right? It can even be an internal experience. We have our own horrible thoughts that we get, horrible demonic experiences, if you will. If the frequency is a lot and the intensity of those horrible experiences is severe, then how do you expect for that effect on you to multiply? Okay? We become like them, we start questioning ourselves, they will affect our minds. Very good. So what Aisha just said, that they'll, in every aspect of our lives, they'll start, that negativity is going to start to influence us. Now, after those intensely and excessively horrible experiences, let's say you meet an awesome person again. You're looking at and meeting and in the company of an awesome person, but you spend a whole lot of time with a horrible person having horrible experiences, and their influence has already shaped you. Now, how do you see that horrible person? Okay? Very good. We lose trust even in the awesome people. So despite the awesomeness of the person you're relating with, because of all of those horrible issues, you're not able to appreciate that awesomeness. Regardless of how awesome they are, the potential that they have to inspire you, the ability they have to make you awesome, is greatly hurdled. It is greatly fettered. It is greatly chained because of the lens through which you are now looking at them, the lens which has been shaped by the horrible experiences. Right? So, all the awesomeness in its own place, because those horrible experiences, by virtue of their intensity and frequency, have distorted the lens, the awesomeness is not as greatly appreciated. When we do get to appreciate it, we'll value it better. We will have, yes, negative thoughts with respect to them. Right? Mariam, I completely agree. You do appreciate them more, but only if you're able to see the awesomeness first. What if just being able to see that awesomeness is you're just too negative to see it? You're just too caught up in those negative experiences that you've had. You see what I'm saying? Okay, so those negative thoughts that we've developed, it is through the lenses of those thoughts that we're going to look at the awesome person. So the next set of questions is, despite the greatness and awesomeness of the person, is there a greater chance that you're going to misunderstand them? Because you've had those intensely and frequently negative experiences, horrible experiences with the likes of Malfoy and whatnot. Will you misjudge? Are you more likely to misjudge that awesome person? And in addition to that, are you more likely to mistreat the awesome person? Yes? Very good. So misjudge, misunderstand, mistreat despite their awesomeness. No matter how good they are, no matter how inspiring they are, the baggage that we have may not even allow for us to appreciate how good and how amazing that other person is. Okay, now when you're misjudging, the good person, the awesome person does you a good turn and you're like, no, there's an agenda behind this. They're going to exploit us. They're looking to take advantage of us. You may, in apprehension, as on account of your insecurity, hold yourself back, think low of them, or even be unjust to them. But when you have that injustice, when you have that misjudgment, when you have that inability to understand them, are you going to accept it? Oh, I'm misunderstanding you. That's why I'm not able to relate with you. I am misjudging you. I am mistreating you. Typically, we don't. When we have all of these attitudes towards the other people, regardless of who they are, typically we have very sound justification, sound in our head. No, he deserved it. He's not really awesome. There's nothing good about him. Yeah, so we will have all the justifications in the world to say that there is nothing wrong with the way we're acting, and that everyone around us, even the good people, their greatness and their goodness is not going to be fully appreciated. Okay? So, taking it forward from there, what you have in front of you is a description of God. A relationship that improves the character of the individual. Okay? So our relationship with God is supposed to be such that it continues to improve our character if it is God that we are relating with. If it is God that we are in relationship with. Okay? I want you to take this in. A relationship that improves the character of the individual. Moving right along. In light of the previous discussion that we had, horrible experiences with horrible people, very frequent, very intense, they shape us such that even when we meet awesome people, we may not see their awesomeness for what it truly is. Okay? And so, if we're relating with God, is it not possible that all of those misjudging, all of that misunderstanding, all of that even mistreating is going to be extended unto God? It is going to be transferred in our relationship with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. The lenses through which we see others, even if that other is God Himself, there is a huge possibility that we're not going to be able to appreciate, we're not going to be able to understand Him. وَمَا قَدَرُ اللَّهَ حَقَّ قَدْرِهِ, where Allah says at least a couple of times in the Quran that they haven't been able to understand Allah, they haven't been able to appreciate Allah the way He deserved. The way He deserved. Okay? And so, by extension, if we haven't been able to understand Him, if we are also misjudging Him, even mistreating Him, is that relationship adding to our character? I don't want you to answer this question. Okay, if you do answer it, keep it to yourself, not to be shared. Not to be shared. How long have you been in relationship with Allah? And in all of this, again, don't answer. In all of this time period, is your character continuously improving? As it should be? Reflecting the awesomeness, the greatness of Allah Himself? Is that entering into our personalities? Is that entering into our conduct? Is that entering into our character? For the most part, we would find ourselves falling short. We would find ourselves lagging behind. Okay? And it is for that reason that I bring in this very, very important idea of lenses through which we perceive reality. When we meet other people, when we are introduced to others, awesome or otherwise, we have certain preconceived judgments of who they are, how they are, what they're like. We can't even help it. Even if the other is a text or is being introduced to us through a text, through written word, the author of the text, the speaker of the kalam, the word, we are going to hold our understanding of them. It is going to happen through all the lenses that we have, through which we perceive reality, through which we perceive others. And yes, negative experiences throughout our lives with horrible people that we've met. And even if the people that we've met are not horrible, they're not as awesome as the awesomeness of the Creator that we're relating with. Yes? So the lenses shaped by less awesome experiences, the lenses shaped by horrible experiences, will then look at the other, even if that other happens to be God, through those lenses, through that lens, and misunderstand Him. If those lenses are dark, then they will show darkness, whatever we're looking at, whatever it is that is being perceived. Does that make sense? If the lens is distorted, then it's not going to give us a clear picture, either magnified or minimized. Okay? And it is these lenses that we are looking to work on. It is these lenses that I want us to focus on. So when I'm talking about the human and God relationship, this is these distorted lenses that come in the way of us really improving our character through this relationship, and how they do not allow for us to appreciate His awesomeness. And it is well documented. It is something that I've repeatedly seen in my clinical experience. And it's very common that resentment towards him is not just a possibility, it's a reality. That the way he is seen through those lenses may lead for people to resent him, may lead for people to carry this grudge against him. It may lead for people to fear abandonment from him. That if that is something that they experienced in their relationships with other people, with their parents perhaps, with their siblings, with other significant others, then they transfer this fear of abandonment even unto God. And they're in this constant fear phase of this sense of intense anxiety that he's not going to be there for me. He's going to leave me when it really matters. Or I don't deserve for him to be there for me. Whatever shape it takes. The impact on the character is usually incredibly negative. Definitely not the impact that you'd want to have when relating to someone awesome. The resentment might find itself manifested as, why me? Incredible hatred. Why have I been subjected to all of these incredibly painful circumstances? And even more dangerous, there may be a possibility of looking to manipulate him, of looking to use him. We do this all the time. We do this in all our relationships. That it is a utilitarian give and take. I do this for you. I pray these 5 prayers, but then you gotta get me through that exam on my terms. On my terms. And if you don't, then that resentment might kick in. That resentment might kick in. I do what I gotta do, whatever you want me to do, but then whatever that problem I have in my relationship with my parents, with my spouse, with my kids, I don't want to fix that. I don't want to fix that. I want you to sanction that for me. I'm going to find that justification from you. So a selective, wherever he seems to be validating me, I take that. Wherever he seems to be asking something of me, somehow that just gets skipped. Wherever I'm supposed to be responsible, somehow it slips out. Or it's prioritized according to my fancy. It is prioritized according to what suits me. So I may take something which is relatively unimportant and exaggerate its importance 100-fold and really commit myself, dedicate myself, burn myself, put myself through a lot of pain to achieve and fulfill that low priority action that I've exaggerated. And what's hiding behind that is my irresponsibility on something incredibly important, on something that should have been a top priority for me. Right? So distorted lenses do not allow for us to improve in this character of ours that that we should have gotten. This may result in rejecting him altogether. And there's actually a good amount of work done on this. That atheism, and there's an article by Paul Vitz on this, he's a psychologist, that a lot of rejections of God can be psychologically traced to daddy issues. That some horrible experience or the other with parents in very critical years of development led for someone to project all that negativity, all that hatred, to the point of denying him altogether. I'm not saying that all kinds of atheism are just this, but there is definitely a significant portion of them. I'm also not saying that this rejection has to be verbal in all its forms. It can be very subtle. It can be very, very subtle. It can find its manifestation as a testification from the tongue, where the tongue is accepting God. But rejection is in a whole lot of other ways. Okay? So, distorted lenses. Or let's say the lenses are not distorted. Let's be charitable to ourselves. Let's say they're just blurry. Like I said, it's not just horrible experiences that shape us. There's less awesome experiences. Right? Not as awesome as the awesomeness of Allah. So, the blurry lenses will still not allow for us to benefit from the greatness. Will still not allow for us to see him and value him and understand him the way he deserves. And yeah, it's a continuous process of clearing out the blurriness from the lenses, of clearing out the image. Okay? So, we also have very sound, very cogent, intellectual justifications for all of these. That there is this resentment, but we have justifications for that. There may be this fear-prone relationship with him in which we're having difficulty approaching him because we think he may fizzle away, he may let us go, we may be manipulating him, relating with him, but on our own fixed, predefined terms. And we have justifications to do all of that. We have excuses, we have rationalizations for all of that. Just like we have rationalizations for all our other encounters. We may have rationalizations for why that seemingly unimportant action has been given so much significance in our personal lives. And we're preaching it as if it is the make or break when it comes to akhirah. We'll have justifications. We may even have justifications and evidence that we bring out from scripture itself. Okay? So, again, the relationship with Allah, that which was supposed to improve our character, as a consequence of these distorted lenses, these blurry lenses, and the rationalizations and justifications that follow, that relationship does not improve our character the way it should. It doesn't make us as awesome as we can be, as we should be. Okay? So, in the light of all of this, when we do relate with him, with all of those lenses, with all of those distortions, with all of those justifications, when we recite Quran Is it not possible for us to not see the God of Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wasallam, but one that suits our fancy, but the one that suits our desires, our priorities, our personal agendas? Is it not possible? وَيَهْدِي بِهِ كَثِيرًا وَيُضِلُّ بِهِ كَثِيرًا وَيَهْدِي بِهِ كَثِيرًا. He misguides through it. The Quran itself can be a greater source of misguidance. One of the ways is to not care about the lenses through which we're reading it. Okay? If we study the seerah of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam and carry the same twisted lenses, the distorted, blurry lenses, how much is the awesomeness of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam? How much of it is going to find its way through to us? When we pray, when we are standing in salah before Him, when we are in dua in front of Him, having a dialogue with Him supposedly, who's to say if that dialogue is with Allah, the one that Muhammadur Rasulullah introduced us to, the one who is represented by all of the ayat in the universe and in the Quran, or we're having a dialogue with our own selves. That this prayer is little more than self-talk, than self-stimulation. Okay? So, we can deny the lens. It's very easy. There is no lens. I am directly in contact with the Quran, brother. This is not me talking, this is the Quran talking. This is Allah's word in front of you, not my interpretation. Okay, you want to do that? By all means. By all means. That's what the Khawarij did. That's what the Khawarij did. And so before you know it, it is this mentality that is going around and doing what, by their own admission, no one other than Allah can do. Who knows the state of the hearts? Only Allah. Yet, we have people using the Quran, using the Hadith, loosely throwing out judgments about the state of people's iman, their hypocrisy, their hearts being sealed, shaitan having overtaken them. Do we not hear these statements day in and day out? From pulpits, in sermons, in our YouTube lectures? Deny the lens altogether. Who the hell has that right? We're human beings. The lenses are there. You can't get rid of them. That's the utmost stupidity to deny them, because to deny them is to then claim for yourself the role of God. And small wonder that these people then start doing what only God can do. They take it upon themselves. They're suffering from this God complex. And let's face it, in our own religious development, at some point we're faced with that manifestation from within us. And if we're not aware of it, that's even scarier. Okay? We can't ever get rid of the lens. It's there. It's there. denying it is stupidity, the only way we have is to try to work on it. Okay? And that's not the extent of it. The lens is not all of what we relate with Allah through, or look at Him, His ayat through. Our personalities, our characters, our conduct is heavily influenced by our instincts. And from within our instincts, our instinct of pleasure. زُيِّنَ لِلنَّاسِ حُبُّ الشَّهَوَاتِ مِنَ النِّسَاءِ. Right, so it's Al-Imran. Beautified for men this attraction in women, right? Basically alluding to sexuality. Wal-Banin, power. Sons signify power in the Arab culture. وَالْقَنَاطِيرِ الْمُقَنْطَرَةِ مِنَ الذَّهَبِ وَالْفِضَّةِ. Right, so there's gold and heaps and heaps and heaps of gold and silver. Wealth. So we have this powerful drives within us. Looking for pleasure, looking for power, looking for wealth. They're there, they're from Allah. They're incredibly powerful. We can deny them. We can say that they have no influence over us. That's usually when they have the most influence over us. We can curtail our access to them. Deny ourselves routine pleasures, necessary social power, or monetary needs. We can do that, but at some point it catches up, it explodes. Or, more dangerously, it manifests itself, the same instinct, the same lust, the same greed, manifests itself in disguised ways, unknown to even us. So we may be asserting power using a spiritual cover. Our own arrogance over other people, putting them down on account of our religiosity. So, for a lot of people, being religious in this society means to conform to other people's religious standards, which you just can never meet. You're never good enough. Because that's how a lot of people have exercised their lust for power. It is through spirituality. It is through spirituality. Yes. And that's not the end of the story. We all have our demons. We all have our shayateen. So from within, they will continue to deceive. They will continue to instigate. They will continue to exaggerate the instincts. They will continue to distort the lenses. They will continue to make us look at things in distorted ways and not be able to appreciate what is to be appreciated. Okay? Now, in that culture in which the distorted lens readings that denies the lens altogether, that there is no lens, this is the Quran, and they assert their reading as the final word. So we have our own distorted lenses. We have our own shortcomings. We have our own instincts, our own demons. And then there is this society, this culture that exaggerates and magnifies the problem multiple times over, exponentially actually. where people, teachers, preachers, completely ignorant of how the lenses may be distorted, of how there is a lens to begin with, and they're continuing to insist that their understanding of the Quran and Sunnah is the only understanding of the Quran and Sunnah. That's our relationship with Allah. That is how we're relating with Him. Through all of these layers and layers and layers of challenges and problems. So is it any wonder, is it at all surprising that as a society, our character is not improving, even though verbally we are the strongest claimants for the love of God, for belief in Allah, stronger than perhaps any other community in the world. And that's not reflected in our characters. And the stupidest mistake you can make is to start looking around, oh, it's because of that group or those people, and just miss the point. We just missed the point. Okay, so that's why I'm doing this. That in the background of all of this, using all of those questions that I put together so as to make us think and come to a recognition and understanding of all of what we just spoke about, so that we can identify the lenses. This is where psychology comes in. This is where at least my psychology comes in. This is what it's going to try to do in order to facilitate our relating with the Quran, so that we are able to see the lens and the schmuck on the lens as best as we possibly can. Okay? Identify what those lenses are, identify the consequences of carrying on with the distortions therein, and see if there's ways of fixing it. See if there's something that we can do. See if there's something that psychology has to teach us. See if there is something that we can learn from the Quran in order to fix our lenses, and so that our relationship with Allah results in His awesomeness, making our character awesome. Okay, that's all of what we're looking to do. That is all of what we're looking to do. Nothing more than that. This entire enterprise, this effort that we're going to be engaged in, that's all of why we're doing this, so as to be able to do that better. Okay? One more reason, and this is a quote that I bring from Viktor Frankl, school of thought and psychology that I adhere to, logotherapy. Frankl is the founder of logotherapy. He says that Western humanity has turned from the priest to the doctor. And I would add to that this phenomena is no longer restricted to just Western humanity, even Eastern humanity. I've been practicing here for the past couple of years now, and I'm a doctor. I'm a psychiatrist. And a lot of the problems that should be of a religious nature, that are of a religious nature, that are of a spiritual nature, that technically should be taken to religious scholars, are being brought here, are being brought to me. People are asking me to deal with them. And they're asking me to deal with them not because religious scholars are not available. Not because there's any shortage of spiritual mentors. They've been there. For a lot of them, they've knocked on at least a dozen doors before they, in their desperation, come to my clinic. Right? So there's that phenomenon. I just want to build on this for a little bit, and then we take it from there. Okay, so just to explain this concept, what you see in front of you on the slide is a cylinder, a cone, and a sphere. Okay? The cylinder in 3 dimensions, the cone in 3 dimensions, the sphere in 3 dimensions, when projected in 2 dimensions, looks like a circle. So what you see on the base is 3 circles. Yes? Even though the 3-dimensional figure is, all 3 of them are different, the cylinder, the cone, and the sphere don't have anything in common in their 3-dimensional form. But yeah, projected onto 2 dimensions, they all look like circles. They all look like circles. So, I want you to look at the circle as to represent depression. So there's low mood, there is weeping spells, there is a difficulty in enjoying life, tiredness, all of those, just general sadness. Okay? But this general sadness can be caused by some bodily problem. Let's say a lack of thyroid hormone. Let's say an iron deficiency, anemia. Okay, so you don't have enough iron, your blood has difficulty, there's not enough hemoglobin, there's not enough capacity for your red blood cells to carry oxygen, you feel tired all the time. If you're going to feel tired all the time, you're not going to get stuff done, you're going to feel low about yourself. It may be that. It may be a bodily problem, a purely physical problem. Or it may be a psychological problem. Right? It's a conflict at home. It's a traumatic relationship. It's an experience of sexual abuse. Right? Any one of the psychological challenges that may be there. Whatever the challenge, and there's an entire spectrum of challenges, entire spectrum of conflicts, the resultant emotions are those of sadness or those of depression. Yes? As with the bodily problems, an entire spectrum of bodily problems, physical problems, but the resultant symptoms, the resultant emotional experience, exactly the same, just like the circles in 2 dimensions. Okay? Similarly, there may be spiritual problems. Okay, there may be questions, doubts. Why me? What am I doing here? What am I supposed to do? Everyone's gonna die at the end. What the hell? Etc., etc. Guilt. I am not good enough. God wants more of me. Etc., etc. So it may be a spiritual problem, but the consequence in the emotional plane, in the experience of the human being, is the same sadness, weeping spells, etc., etc. Okay? So we have, on the emotional plane, on the person who is narrating his symptoms, it's all circles. But where the circles are coming from are incredibly diverse sources. Within the psychological dimension of the human being, within the spiritual dimension of the human being, within the body, physical dimension of the human being. Why am I sharing this with you? You can replace depression with any other emotion. You can replace it with happiness. There may be psychological experiences that lead to happiness. There may be spiritual experiences that lead to happiness. There may be physical experiences that lead to happiness. And there are. Okay? But as far as the experience is concerned, as far as the feelings are concerned, they're those of happiness. They're all circles. Where are the circles coming from? There's an entire diversity. They may be coming from the sphere, they may be coming from the cone, they may be coming from the cylinder. Okay? So, keeping that in mind, when we have this problem, any problem that manifests itself as depression, an expert of the spirit may have a very good idea of spiritual problems and how to address spiritual problems, but because he or she does not have an idea about how the same circle, the same emotional problem may be coming from a bodily dimension, a physical dimension, or a psychological dimension. It is not just possible, it is incredibly probable, it is actually very prevalent that he will mistreat that emotional experience because of his or her inability to see the other dimensions and the problems that may originate from the other dimensions. Similarly, if you're talking to a typical mainstream psychiatrist, they may be able to see depression for what it is. They may have a very good idea of the circle. They may even have a very good idea of some of the bodily problems that lead to the circle, some of the psychological problems. But then the spiritual problems that lead to the same circle, they're very likely to mistreat them, and they do mistreat them. Do you see the problem? So what we're looking to do here is bring these issues as much in conversation with each other as we possibly can, to have as holistic a picture as we can possibly manage. Okay, as holistic a picture as we possibly can manage. And please understand, I just used depression as an example. You can use tranquility. So we know, we've all heard, Ala bi dhikrillahi tatma'innul qulub, that in the dhikr of Allah the hearts find itminan. So if that's the only kind of itminan you know, then everywhere you see itminan, is that the dhikr of Allah producing itminan? Because in Surah Yunus, the same word itminan is used for people of kufr. وَاتْمَأَنُّوا بِهَا, that they've rejected akhirah, they have contented themselves with dunya, and they have itminan in it, with it. Is that okay? Is that something we're going to be okay with? Right? So again, there's a lot of overlap with respect to religion, with respect to psychology. And so bringing them in conversation is for the benefit of both. It's for the benefit of both. And because we can't wait for scholars of both fields to come into conversation, since the public has urgent needs, we do what we can here. We do what we can here. Okay, so that's, again, the second reason why I'm doing this. Moving right along. When I say you, I don't mean you. And what do I mean by that? I use the word, whenever I say you, it's a rhetorical device, I mean that generically. When I say you, I mean me, I mean everyone, I mean us, I mean human beings. Okay, so I don't want anyone to be taking that personally. And that's very important for multiple reasons. I am talking about the God and human relationship. I am not talking about God and your relationship. that is none of my bloody business. That is a very, very personal space for you and Allah. That is your space. I am no one to be casting judgments there. I am no one to be poking my nose around there. Which is why a question came up in which I said, don't answer it in public. Answer it to yourself for sure, but not in public. So I will be saying you, but please don't take that to mean you. It's a rhetorical device. It's something that we use in language to emphasize, to get the message hit home. But I am nobody to enter into anybody's personal space. And it does not get any more personal than your relationship with Allah. So whatever we're going to be talking about, I'm going to try to make it as general as possible. Obviously, examples are going to be brought in, generalized, but to personalize it for your own benefit is your problem. It is something that you have to take on your own. Okay, it is something that you have to carry forward with you. Just like in a husband-wife relationship, as a psychologist, a psychiatrist, we may talk about how to make the most of a relationship, how to have a beautiful relationship, but then it's a husband-wife relationship. It's not your spouse relationship. That's, again, nobody's business. Again, that's nobody's business. Unless, of course, there's issues there that somebody wants to consult for and then invite another person into their personal space. People do that for their marital affairs, for their marital difficulties. And so people do that for their spiritual difficulties as well. But that always happens with consent. That always happens with the permission of the other person, and can never be forced, should never be forced. And it's always to a certain extent. At the end of the day, there's only so much. As important as external help can be, maybe, sometimes necessarily has to be, in a lot of problems, it is external help. And it can only go so far. Okay, so again, not encroaching in anyone's personal space. Keeping it very, very general, very, very generic. We're talking about the human being and God relationship. We're not telling anyone to do anything. Do this and don't do this. It's just, just putting things out there. This is what it is. If this is how it is, then the likely consequences will be A. If it's not like this, it's like that, then the likely consequences will be B. You take your choice. You take your pick. Your freedom, your space. None of my business. Okay? So that's with respect to why I am doing this, and a little disclaimer about how you is not you. Now a little bit about who I am. So yes, from the psychology perspective, since this is a Quran and psychology course, I'm going to introduce myself from the Quran side and from the psychology side. I'll start from the psychology side. So I am a psychiatrist, but the typical understanding of what a psychiatrist is, you go to them, they diagnose you, and they give you pills. I abhor that kind of psychiatry. For myself, at least. I do understand that for specific areas, for certain psychiatrists, that is the way they can practice, that's all they can do, fair enough. But those who say that's all there is to psychiatry, that is BS. That's messed up. Okay, so I don't adhere to that pill-pushing psychiatry. I definitely do not reduce psychiatry to just a prescription of medications. Okay, that's just sick. That's dehumanizing. That is incredibly inadequate. Okay, so there is that mainstream psychiatrist. Mine would be, I would like for it to be way beyond that. Those of you who have worked with me, taken sessions with me, consulted me for your problems would know that's not the kind of psychiatry I do. It's extensive. It's hopefully far more holistic than this. Then there's my psychology. So I did my FCPS in psychiatry. I'm a specialist psychiatrist, at least in Pakistan, not outside of Pakistan. Okay, but I also have a master's in psychology. But then again, there's a particular kind of psychology which is popular, which is mainstream, for which existential issues, spiritual issues, religious issues, they don't matter. In fact, there's a lot of human issues that don't matter. And that's a crisis. There are crises actually within psychology that thinkers have been lamenting about, crying about for decades. I don't think there's a single year over the past 70 years or so in which you won't find an academic paper in which a senior psychologist, an established psychologist, is talking about a crisis of psychology. And most of those crises are revolving around how psychology is not human enough. Okay, so there's that mainstream psychology, that not human enough psychology. Forget about spirituality and religiosity. There's a whole lot of what makes us human that's just enigmatic to that psychology. That psychology of rats and robots and computers. Really. So yes, I do have a master's in that, but what I adhere to is a far more holistic psychology. Even that term has been abused quite a lot. A more human psychology. Okay, let's just keep it simple. And I will be pursuing a PhD in that pretty soon. So I want you to be very clear on that. The kind of psychology that I come with, that predominantly is inspired by logotherapy. Frankl, I just alluded to him. I will probably be alluding to him a lot. It takes that mainstream psychology into consideration, of course. It takes that mainstream psychiatry into consideration, of course. It just says that's not all there is. There's more. There's more that takes religion seriously, that takes spirituality seriously. It doesn't prescribe what kind of religiosity or what kind of spirituality you have to adhere to. Again, that's none of its business. It's still a science, right? It's not going to prescribe, follow this religion. I mean, that's not how it's supposed to work. It respects your freedom. It respects your plurality. It respects your own personal space. Okay, but it definitely takes it seriously as positively influencing psychological phenomena, right? Or personal health, or character, or personality. So it takes that seriously. I find it very important to mention that, because if not for this, Quran and psychology is not possible. If you stick within the mainstream understandings, you're doing patchwork. You're trying to bring together sworn enemies. Okay, that's very important to understand. Which is why I have great beef with Islamic psychology that doesn't take that seriously. It has to be a more nuanced understanding that allows for this discussion to be possible at any level. Okay? So that's important to put out there. When it comes on a religious side, so I'm Muslim, Ahl Sunnah wal Jama'ah. Okay? Beyond that is none of anybody's concern. That's what I leave it to. I do have within my religious journey a lot of excess. I was part of Shifa Student Society back in my Shifa days. It was a very my days of activism, if you will, doing this, doing that, conferences, lectures, getting on stage yourself, the whole shebang. Been there, done that a lot. It's been going on for the past 15 years now. It started 15 years ago. I was part of youth club at some point as well. Did not last very long. I am no longer a part of youth club. People keep asking me that. I have to continue to tell them that that's not the case. and I've been a part of Tanzeem. Most of what I started to do with respect to the Quran was as a part of Tanzeem. All of the workshops that they had, all of the teaching sessions they had with respect to that. Dr. Israr Ahmad, rahimahullah, he was my gateway through to the Quran, and for a couple of years I was part of that. So there's pretty much anything that he said about the Quran, I've heard it. Okay, that was a huge part of my life for a couple of years, and that's where I started doing Ramadan nights. For most of you who are aware of that, it was within the month of Ramadan, going from cover to cover, Fatiha to Nas. We would do translation and brief explanation. Relevance, I started in 2012. The last that I did was in 2019. So that's where it all started. But also important to understand that was since 2014. I haven't been part of that, and as I continued, details perhaps at another time from another platform, but there were shortcomings in that ideology. There were incredible, glaring errors that I couldn't come to terms with, and so I couldn't continue with that. Right? There's agendas. There is claims that are too tall for anyone to be making, and so that's not me anymore. Okay, part of my past, proud of it for as long as it lasted. Learned a lot from all the glaring mistakes that I made around that time, but it's a thing of the past now. And I learned a lot from it as well, of course. Ramadan nights I just told you about. So since 2014, it's been outside of the Tanzeem circle, and it's been, I've seen it develop, honestly. A lot of things that I was restricted in understanding, as that lens changed, or I was able to identify that there was a lens to begin with. I've noticed a lot of things that I wasn't able to notice before in my reading of the Quran. And so there was this small effort that I started with respect to Quran Daily that some of you may be familiar with, in which I looked to do something similar, right? This Quran and psychology bit that I've been trying to highlight, but there was a lot of problems with that. There was no interaction. I want to make this interactive, as you already know, which is why I'm never doing YouTube again. This completely is a horrible experience for interaction. Okay, we're going back to Zoom from next Saturday onwards, so we can really make this interactive. So I wasn't really getting any feedback, and that didn't do it for me. Just staring at the camera, talking to yourself, not sure if people are following along, not sure of what part they understood, what part they didn't understand, and just going on and on and on and on, and just it was a ramble. So that didn't work for me. I did do a course with some of my colleagues at Julaybib Institute in Ramadan, and that was a much better experience. So that gave me the idea of bringing it here, using that same platform, that same method, to have a more hopefully beneficial experience with those involved. Okay, so Quran Daily was an important historical step in making this course, this Quran and psychology thing that we're doing right now, for it to happen. Okay, now, bringing it together, what am I doing right now? I'm a director, not a directory, I'm a director, that's a typo, and instructor at Julaybib Institute. Okay, those of you who were part of our Ramadan course would know that, Quran Light in Post-Modernity. However, this project is more of a personal initiative. Definitely all of what I've learned from Julaybib, which is founded by Dr. Basit Koshal, he is my mentor, allowing me to see a whole lot of things that I wasn't able to see before, is it's going to have an incredible influence on what we talk about during this course. But to be clear, this is still not from that platform, in that I'm not going to have all of my colleagues from there all the time with me. Maybe at some point I can invite them over if they're interested. I don't know if they're free, if they're available, but pretty much this is going to be me. Okay, but that is an important part of who I am as far as my identity is concerned. I am a psychiatrist and life coach. I do give one-to-one sessions. To a lot of you have probably heard about them or taken them even, maybe, I don't know. And that's the website through which I operate. So most of my day, or at least a good chunk of my day, is spent giving one-to-one sessions. Those experiences are brought into this as well, because there's a lot that I learn from the people that I work with, because every single encounter is a new experience, is a new way of a new psychology manifesting itself to me, right? So that allows for me to see more of myself, of reality, of life, and then of the Quran. And I hope to be able to bring that here as well. Okay, I'm going to be a graduate student pretty soon. Like I said, my psychology endeavors are not over. After my master's, I'm going to go for a PhD, which is quite surprising for a lot of people. You're already a psychiatrist. Why do you have to go for another graduate program? I just do. Okay, for a lot of reasons that I tried to hint towards. I'm not, the way it's done is just not, it's just so frustrating. So there's a whole lot that needs to be done that I feel I'll be in a better position to do if I am studying. I'm also a director and lead trainer at Parwaz, which has not come to public light as of yet. It will in a couple of months, in which there's a group of people working with me from psychology, from psychiatry, from even other fields, who are looking to develop themselves as coaches, as trainers, as instructors, as counselors. So I'm working with them as well, and that's also a very educational experience. So this is me telling you that there is a whole lot going on in parallel to this. Okay? Now, what this is not. Very important. As far as the Quran side of it is concerned, this is not tafsir. Okay, I don't do tafsir. I can't do tafsir. I am not qualified to do tafsir. I don't know enough Arabic to do tafsir. And that's just one thing that I don't know enough of. There is so much else that I don't know that is necessary to know for people to do tafsir. I don't even know what I don't know. Right? So this is definitely not tafsir. Okay? And people will have questions, and they do have questions, and they're very genuine, they're very legitimate questions. That who the hell are you to say anything about what the Quran is saying? Fair enough. I am no one. So what I do use is that translation and that explanation that is done for public consumption. I am not representing scholarly resources here. What I am bringing is what the scholars have written for the layperson to read, for the layperson to understand. Okay, and relating that with psychology. That's it. Not making any claims beyond that. The plain sense translation, the superficial explanation that scholars have done for lay people, for non-scholars, that's what I bring here. That's all of what my study is. Okay, nothing technical. Nothing technical. So let's be very clear on that. You're looking for tafsir, you're in the wrong place. You're looking for scholarly exposition of the Quran, that's not what I do. Yes, but when the Quran is related to psychology, that's where I bring myself in. That's where I bring myself in, because whoever is talking about the Quranic understanding of psychology and has no idea of the subject of psychology, he's not just insulting psychology, he's insulting the Quran. And same for other fields of knowledge. If you're not aware of what's going on there, and you're talking about the sociological implications from the Quran and the economic implications from the Quran and the political implications, and you have no idea what those fields are talking about, that is incredible injustice. That is incredible injustice to the Quran itself. It's a gross misrepresentation. I don't care what your expertise is in the rest of those fields. If you're making categorical claims about all of these other sciences, you're off. Big time. Okay, so I'm not going to be making categorical claims about any of the religious sciences either. So please be very sure that I'm not teaching anyone any aqidah either. Nothing at all. Who the hell am I to teach you anything about aqidah? Yes, but the conversations that we do have, if they do influence your understanding, that's your problem. That's between you and your relationship with Allah. I am not teaching anyone any aqidah. I am not teaching anyone any fiqh. I am not telling you this is halal, this is haram, do this, don't do this, tie your arms around here, not here. I don't do that. Whatever my fiqh is for me. Whatever you want to do, you want to take fiqh, you go to people of fiqh. Okay? But yeah, those aspects that do have people in distress a lot of times. So for example, a lot of people with OCD, obsessive compulsive disorder, will have fiqh issues. Then I will resort to whatever scholarly opinions are already out there, citing them, referencing them. Like, dude, look at this. Okay? Look at this, take your pick. That's the best I can do. That is the best I can do. And it is definitely not the final word. If I ever say that this is what the Quran says and nothing else, slap me. Alright? Don't ever talk to me. Or just, remind me that I did that before you stop talking to me. But if I insist on still saying that, then yeah, don't ever talk to me. Not at all. There's a lot of other opinions that are out there. There are a lot of other readings that are going to be out there. By all means, a lot of better ones. Don't make any claim. I'm not making any claims of any kind of finality, of any kind of superiority. From the perspective of psychology, I do make claims. I will put that out as a challenge. You'll be very, very hard pressed to find anything that even comes close to what we're going to be doing over here. Of what I'm sure of, I'll make a categorical claim. But anything else, that's not what I'm saying. Okay? And even in that, I'm not going to say that it's the final word. It is what it is, an effort. Okay, it's going to have mistakes, a whole lot of them, but still I'm going to make put that out as a challenge. As far as psychology is concerned, as far as Quran and psychology is concerned, you'll be hard pressed to find something like this. Okay, so naturally following from this, I don't want anyone to become a Bible thumper after attending any sessions with me in this course. And what I mean by that is a Bible thumper is somebody who's just thumping the Bible in your face. This is what the Bible says. And this is, you need to be doing this and you need to be doing that. I don't want anyone to feel that they have anything from this course that authorizes them to go around and judge people in their faces, to have any of that kind of arrogance. Because I'm not offering any of those things, not offering the final word on anything. Okay, and from a psychology perspective, please be very clear. This is not therapy. If you have issues that require personal help, you will have to seek personal help. You will have to seek one-to-one help. Yes, there's a lot that you can get from here that will help you improve yourself and a lot of your problems too. Great. But it's not a replacement. For those who need that, they need that. Okay, there's stuff that can be done in a one-to-one session that cannot be done in a general session. That should not be done in a general session. But definitely, yeah, there will be therapeutic things that you can pick out from here, inshallah. Okay? This is not going to be academically rigorous. Okay, so I'm not going to be giving you references and citations and not making it technical, giving you papers to study and read, none of that. I want for this to be for a layperson. I want for this to be for everyone, right, who has a basic education. So I'm going to try to keep it as non-technical as possible. All of the questions that I started off with are very psychodynamic in their origin, right? But I didn't use any terminologies. I purposely avoided as many terminologies as I possibly can, and that's what I'm going to try to do. I am not going to make it, I'm not making any academic claims based on this either. Okay, with the kind of rigor that academia demands, I'm not going to put into these sessions that we're going to have. I'm doing this for the reasons that I told you that I'm doing this. And it's not going to be abstruse. I'm trying to be funny here. Abstruse means using difficult words, and abstruse itself is a difficult word. So I have been known to be difficult to understand. I like to show off my GRE vocabulary. Perhaps I thought that made me look smart or whatever. But I'm going to try not to do that. And whenever I do, because it is interactive, you can always tell me that, dude, slow down. I can't understand what you're saying. What the hell does that word mean? Did you just make it up? A lot of people told me that. We think you make words up. And I was in a habit of speaking really fast, which I really tried to tone down. I hope that was evident today, even still. If that is a problem, you let me know. We're gonna have an interactive session, so we interact, and you tell me where it's not making sense or I'm going too fast and I repeat. Okay? I'm not giving you any certificates for this. I attended Quran and psychology with Dr. Yusuf Razan. Means nothing anywhere. Okay, so if that's why you're coming here, go away. I'm not giving anyone any certificates for anything. Okay, definitely not in this course. Maybe some other course sometime, but not this. Okay, so don't start diagnosing people. Whatever you do take from here, I don't want you to go around and psychologically judge people. First, I didn't want you to go around religiously judge people. I'm not doing any of those things. I don't want you to do that for psychology as well. We have those tendencies. Please, not from here. And one thing that this is not Islamic psychology. This is not Islamic psychology. Okay, so we got to be very, very clear about that. Academically, technically, there's a lot of problems with that phrase and how that's used. I'm not getting into that right now. I just want to make it clear this is not what that is. Okay? So what is this? This is going to be more of a cover-to-cover journey. So there's people asking how long is this course? I honestly don't know. I do know we have this real dedication that we want to finish the Quran. I have no plans. Of finishing it anytime soon. I'm going to take my sweet time. Like I said, the reason why I'm doing this, if that requires for me to spend an hour on one ayah, I will spend an hour on one ayah. If it takes us 10 years to finish, then so be it. Okay, some of you will be with me by that time. I don't even know if I'll be able to finish it. I really hope I'll be able to finish it, inshallah. There's stuff that I've done so as to ensure that I do end up finishing it. It's coming up. So it's a journey. Hopefully it'll span years. And I don't know when it's ending. Okay? Yes, there will be people who will be leaving us, not continuing. Fair enough, completely understandable. It's a fairly long journey. But we're going to try to make it such that even those who want to join in later, these videos are, and the interaction is structured such that that remains possible later on as well, that they can fall back on the videos that are being recorded as with these interactions. So the first 45 minutes are going to be interactive, but they're going to be interactive such that even somebody who's watching a video recording later on is able to have that interaction with a piece of paper or just typing by themselves. Okay, and we're not going into side discussions and dialogues so as to put them off, those watching the recording. Okay, yeah, but then we will have those Q&A, those questions and answers towards the second part of each section, of each discussion. Today we couldn't do that because I went on for a really long time, and also because I talked very slow, something that I don't usually do. Okay, so yes, it's going to be interactive. This is a subscription course. Okay, which means yes, it's going to be once a week. This is going to be once a week, so there's like 4 classes a month. Okay, it's a monthly subscription. I'm gonna have to ask you to pay. Okay, I already told you there's a whole lot of stuff that I'm doing, and I already told you I want to take this for as long as possible. And one way, let's face it, to keep myself motivated and to keep you motivated is to charge you. Okay, because I'm going to have to cancel a lot of appointments so as to be able to prepare for this and to be able to deliver this. Okay, so not only do my patients suffer, my family suffers and I suffer. Okay, so you best be making up for that. Okay, I do understand that a lot of people don't see eye to eye with that this is something to do with the Quran and you're charging for that, and I respect that. You have that opinion, fair enough, just don't bother me with it. Okay, this is what I have, this is what I'm doing. I have my reasons, I have my understanding. There's this article that I wrote on activism and business, which is one of the only articles, it's one of the 2 articles that I published on Medium. So if you want it, we can send it to you, or you can just search it, where I give some reasoning for that. I try to keep it nominal as much as possible, but sufficient enough to keep you motivated as well. And I've seen this, I've been doing this for 15 years now. What you pay for, you value. And what you value influences you. It's just the way we think, that's the way we are now. Okay, so I want to make that for the benefit of all of us. It keeps me committed, it keeps you committed. If you haven't spent money, you're not going to value it. Okay, so nevertheless, I do understand that not everyone is going to be able to afford this, which is why we will have scholarships. And we're going to share the form. You fill up that form, you tell us why you need to do this, you tell us that you're still going to be committed, you tell us how much you're going to be able to cover, and we cover the rest for you one way or the other. You want to cover for someone else, by all means, we're going to give you that option as well. Of course we're going to give you that option. Okay, so when you subscribe to our Patreon, you're going to get that option to support, sponsor somebody else's participation for this. Okay, so yeah, it's going to be on Patreon. All those details are going to be shared with you, the technical details. How is the payment going to work? What is the frequency going to be? Frequency is going to be weekly, but I think pretty much it's just Patreon and payment, those technical details. My manager is already in touch with you. He will get those across to you. I think that's about it. Yes, we will be doing it on Zoom. For sure. We are not doing this on YouTube again. I did not like this. So I'm looking at my YouTube screen and I'm like a minute behind. Okay, so your comments that you sent a minute ago, I'm reading them right now, so I wasn't able to keep up. I want to make this more interactive, so we're going to switch to Zoom from next Saturday. And yeah, that's that. If you have any questions, I don't think I can take them. We're out of time. And thank you very much. I look forward to continuing this with you, starting this with you next Saturday, 7:30. Half of the session is going to be the way this was, and the other half is going to be a more elaborate Q&A sessions. You still have questions, write to us, email us, WhatsApp us. You have our contact details. If you don't, I don't know how you got here. So I'll see you next week. Jazakumullahu khairan wa akhiru da'wana and alhamdulillahi rabbil alamin.